And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Eating House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin. And I would expect a very surly episode of the show today. But Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay, except for the games that I don't know. It's a miracle my TV survived this season. And let me tell you, secret word today, viewers, is beer. So you know what to do. They say beer.
That's right. Kick it off like you're starting an episode of King of the Hill when they crack the beer to start the episode and the theme song, because that's what we need today. We have been. I'm telling you, I hate this Mets team. I hate them. I have nothing but anger and disdain for this team right now and what they have fucking done to us this year. I can't take it. What we were forced to witness again today is just it really sums up what we have been given this whole season, particularly since June 13th, from this garbage team and this garbage manager and the garbage president of baseball operations that built this team. And we can sit here and bitch about the moves that David Stearns made or didn't make all we want. But guess what? If it was, June, and I asked you, do you want Tyler Rogers on the team? You would have said yes. In the offseason last year, if I said, do you want to re-sign Sean Manaea? We all said yes. So while there are a lot of things to criticize David Stearns about, this was supposed to be a game that you could not pencil in, that you could write in pen, this is a win. You had a 3-0 lead. Sean Manaea on the mound. You already lost a dog shit game last night after you came out and looked like world beaters on Tuesday. Then they blow the game and they ended up making it 5-4 in the game on Wednesday night that they lost and couldn't hit the garbage Washington Nationals bullpen. But once again tonight, and it's funny too, because I actually made this before Ryan Stanek tacked it on, so I still had it as 5-3. But no, the Mets actually get blown out in DC to not only lose the game, but lose the series 9-3 to the Nationals. My question to you, Dan, as angry as I am about everything else in the series, you're down 5-3 in the 8th inning. And I wrote this down because this is a stream of consciousness going on right now. Why the fuck is Ryan Stanek in the game in the 8th inning down by 2 runs? What do you have Ryan Helsley on this team for? He hasn't pitched since Sunday. He finally had a good outing. And you're going to put this fucking guy in who stinks and has a 5 ERA? Dan, take it from here. Why was he in the game?
I had no clue. Just a stupid, boneheaded move by Mendoza. I swear Mendoza should be fired. This right now, just let me go crap open a beer.
Yeah, because tell me this. Carlos Mendoza gives these games up too much. He gives these games up. We've seen it time and time again this year. And I thought that now we were in crunch time at the end of this season. We're in the final 40 games right now, everybody. There's no more fucking around. There's no more time to waste. This team isn't even 10 games over 500. And if the Cincinnati Reds win tonight, we're tied for the final wildcard spot. I'll tell you this, Dan. I hope the Reds win the next 20 games in a row and bury this fucking team. I don't want to care about the Mets anymore this year. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve our attention. This is a shit team. They haven't come back to win anything this year. After trailing after 8 innings, the Mets came back and won 4 times last year in the regular season. Not once this year have they erased even a 1-run deficit after 8 innings. This team is gutless. This team is heartless. This team is ridiculously flawed. This is not the 21 game team that's over 500 that we saw back on June 13th. This is the reflection of a team that we've seen for the last 2 months playing damn near 20 games under 500. And if this surprises you, you're out of your fucking mind. I don't understand. I cannot take watching this team do this to us anymore. They do it to us over and over and over again. And it's the same fucking thing. Even last week, me and you were at the game when Nolan McLean finally stopped the bleeding last week against the Seattle Mariners. And coming into that game, the Mets had blown leads in 8 straight games. That means, okay, they didn't do it in their little 3-game winning streak in between it all, but that means in 9 out of the last 12 games, they've blown a lead. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's another disaster, and I have a scary feeling that these guys are all of us going to look like they'll turn a complete 180 on with someone else the next year. These same relievers. I have a scary feeling that's going to happen. Knowing our luck,
you don't have to worry about that, Dan, because they're all free agents. The entire Mets bullpen, basically, including Edwin Diaz, who can opt out after this year, is basically free agents. So who knows what they're going to do? That's another jackass thing that David Stearns has done. For the second time in the last 3 years, and to be fair, he wasn't there 2 years ago when it happened, but for the second time in 3 years now, the Mets are basically going to have to replace their entire bullpen on the fly. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. We'll figure that out in the offseason. You know, the other thing I do want to mention, too, aside from the fact that Carlos Mendoza is a horrible manager and a moron because he blew that game and just threw it out the window today by putting Ryan Stanek in. I even texted you before Ryan Stanek threw his first pitch to whatever batter he was facing in the 8th inning. I texted you, and I said, does Carlos Mendoza, would he rather be down by 2 runs or 5? Why is he putting this guy in the game? And to be honest, I was being nice, apparently, because by the time this jackass came out of the game, the Mets were down by 6. So I'm fed up with this team. I'm fed up with these guys. And, you know, the other thing I want to point a finger at, Dan, is Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga both suck. Kodai Senga has not been the same guy since he got hurt. And Sean Manaea, what the hell happened to this guy? He looked great the first 3 innings. He sucks now. I just don't understand. Everything is going wrong for this team. Every button Carlos Mendoza pushes is the wrong button. It's like the complete opposite of last year.
What the heck is going on here with this team? I mean, it's to the point that maybe it might be easier on my grandmother that she can't watch. She doesn't have access to tomorrow's game. Maybe I won't feel so bad telling her that, yeah, you can't watch this game as I always do when a game's on Apple TV. I just tell her, yeah, it's not on TV tomorrow. That's what I tell her. When she tries to ask me, or even my mother, or even my sister, what channel's the game on, and I know when the games are on Apple TV, I just tell her it's not on TV. Maybe I saved her a little bit on that one. Who knows? Maybe I hope I'm wrong, and the Mets and once again our this starting pitcher tomorrow just pitches a gem.
Yeah, don't worry. You're not going to be wrong, because this team now, we're going to Atlanta next, and you know how fun it's been for the Mets to play in Atlanta over the last 30 fucking years. They can't win in that shithole, and now the Braves have won 8 of the last 10. So even when the Braves were buried 20 games under 500, and we're 20 games out of first place, they still gave the Mets problems, and now they've won 8 out of 10, and now nobody is going to be crazy enough to say they're making a playoff push because they're still buried by all, for all intents and purposes. But the Braves have won 8 of 10. They're playing good baseball. The Mets, they can't get out of their own fucking way. So what do you think's going to happen here? I mean, this is just setting up to be another disaster. And I heard somebody comparing this season to 2007 and 2008. You can't even compare it to that. 2007, 2008, at least they were in it in September still and playing good ball. You know, the Mets, yeah, they're still barely hanging on to the final wild card spot, which, by the way, wouldn't have existed back in 2007 and 2008. But they're finally holding on to this wild card spot by the skin of their teeth. And they only got lucky, by the way, too, that the Cincinnati Reds lost to the god-awful Anaheim Angels last night. Otherwise, they'd be tied right now. And if the Reds won tonight, they'd be out of a playoff spot.
Yeah. With a correction, they're not playing tonight.
Well, the next time they play, who cares? If they're going to win and the Mets are going to lose. That's what's going to come down to. The Mets suck. They can't get out of their own way, and it's literally driving me nuts. Seeing what this team has turned into is driving me nuts. Especially, I was driving home from work, listening to the game with them blowing that inning, and people around me must have thought I was a raving lunatic. Probably like the people watching the stream right now. I'm sorry if this is your first time watching the stream. I'm usually not this angry, but this Mets team is bringing it out in me, and I just can't take it. They're killing me on the inside. That's why I'm saying I hope the Reds bury this fucking team. I don't want to care. Once football season starts, fuck you, Mets. That's how I want to feel. And if they're in a playoff spot, I'm not going to be able to do that. But at this point, I'm done with them. I'm done. Even after they had that 7-game winning streak, which seems like 5 years ago, it was only a month ago, and that seems like that's in a different dimension at this point. I don't understand what the hell is going on with this team. And then the thing that also drives me crazy, Dan, is that we've been bitching about the offense for most of this season. The offense finally seems like it's starting to come around a little bit. But then you look at this, it just goes to show the gutless nature of this team, that they don't fight back. They don't have it in them. And that starts with the manager, if you ask me. And the Nationals bullpen, the worst bullpen in the National League, the last 2 games, they pitched 7 2/3 innings against the Mets and allowed 1 hit. 1 hit. That's it. 1 walk, 2 base runners in 7 2/3 innings against the worst bullpen in the National League. That's unacceptable when you're playing a team that's buried, like the Washington Nationals, 25 games under 500. They're 30 games out of first place. And you're going to sit here and lose 2 out of 3 to them and face their bullpen, which sucks, for that many innings and not do anything to them. These guys should be ashamed of themselves. They should be forced to walk to Atlanta after this fucking series. This is a disgrace. And, Steve Cohen, where's your quippy tweets? How come you're not joking around sending out these lighthearted tweets now? Oh, man, I guess everybody's happy. Oh, yeah, they scored 5 runs the other day. Who gives a shit? I'm so done with these guys, Dan. I don't know. What else do you want to add to that?
Oh, I think you just had everything there in a nutshell. Pretty much everything I was gonna say is what you were gonna say, and it's just become a utter disaster. I have a feeling I'm gonna have to replace my TV by season ends. I'm expecting somewhere between now and whenever the season ends, I'm gonna be replacing my TV. That's what I expect. I'm gonna be replacing my TV, and hope that goes well. Replacing a TV. I almost expect to say, yeah, I broke my TV. I expect to go to Best Buy and say, I broke my TV because I'm a Mets fan. That
Yeah,
I have a feeling that's what's gonna happen. Either way, I expect. Actually, the crazy part? I expect it to happen either way because I feel like either way there's. Someone pointed out to me, yeah, what are you talking about, Daniel? Either way, you could do something that shakes the TV, even if you're winning. You're celebrating, you're jumping up and down. You're going to break how sensitive these TVs are. Either way, you're probably going to have to replace this TV at the beginning of the season, even though somehow it hasn't. How long this TV has? I think this specific TV has been in the living room has been around since maybe the last time the Giants won the Super Bowl, how long that living room TV has lasted. But I have a crazy feeling that this TV is something's gonna happen, and hopefully it's the latter and not the worst case scenario that this TV breaks and I'm gonna have to go to a Best Buy, go to a PC Richard, wherever I find a good deal on that kind of TV, Samsung Smart TV, and I'm gonna have to tell them, yeah, I need I need a new TV. I broke the previous one because I'm a Mets fan. Insert whatever the outcome that caused me to do something that broke the TV, because that is what I expect. That's all I can tell you. That is what I expect, and I gotta tell you something hilarious that was not really more than the outcome of the game, but a Mets fan in the South that's going to this weekend's game said this about the Braves mascot. Look, that mascot blooper looks so much like a dildo. He says he wants to grab that mascot, take it to a Liberty game, and throw it onto the court.
Well, that's definitely true. I could definitely hear that. I don't know what's going to happen this this weekend in Atlanta. We'll start talking about it in a sec. But I can tell you this: it's not going to be pretty.
What's your prediction for the fight, then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Pain.
That's all it's going to be. Pain. That's it for this weekend in Atlanta. And it's not going to be easy, Dan, because this Mets team already, too, is banged up. Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil were both out of the lineup today with the varying injuries. Nimmo's dealing with a stiff neck. McNeil's dealing with a shoulder that luckily it's not really affecting his bat, they said. It's more affecting his defense and his ability to throw. Kind of like, I guess, a lesser version of what Aaron Judge is going through over there.
Yeah,
but both out of the lineup, Dan. And then Francisco Alvarez getting hurt, too, on top of that. And by the way, too, there's another thing I want to bitch about real quick. What is Francisco Alvarez doing? This guy has been so good since he came back. He's a big dude. What are you sliding into second base head first for? What are these guys doing? You didn't have the stupid oven mitt thing to protect your hand on there. Why are you sliding in head first and now hurting the team by taking yourself out for a couple of weeks? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this is other stupid, sliding head first, extra stupid, not wearing the oven mitt thing, which probably should have worn that too. But that's a whole other thing. But definitely should have worn that. But that happening is just questioning that. And then another thing I have to say about that about players that especially catchers. I have a weird feeling that catcher in Seattle that's been hitting like crazy. They're probably gonna slowly phase him into DH or something because they know what this kind of thing happens to catchers, freaking hand injuries.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing though too. They've been using him as a DH a lot. They've been using him as a catcher, obviously, primarily. You have to protect these guys, and I'm sorry, I'm sick. There's a bunch of guys on this team that I am fucking sick of. I'm sick of Luis Torrens. And I know some people might think that's crazy to say. He's a great defensive catcher, but I'm sorry. I'm sick of him. The guy can't hit. I'm sick of Tyrone Taylor. As soon as I saw him in the lineup today, I said to myself, well, they're not going to win today. Now, I didn't think that they were going to blow a 3-0 lead and lose it. But, I just had a feeling that Tyrone Taylor being in the lineup today was not a good sign. Even Ryan Stanek, I understand the deal with Ryan Stanek for the most part, but this is, what the hell is Mendoza, using him today too? I just don't understand what the hell is going on with this team. They need serious upgrades. This is a very, very thin team at this point right now. And the only person that we can thank for that is the boy genius, as good old Joe Beningo would call him David Stearns. Thank you, David Stearns. Thank you and you know what? I think in a lot of ways, Dan, 2024 might have been the worst thing to ever happen to this organization, because now everybody just thought that was going to be the beginning of the good times. Oh, we're going to sign Juan Soto now. Everything's going to be easy. We're going to be like one of the teams that, is just a perennial contender. We're going to be like the new St. Louis Cardinals, who are in the playoffs every year. We're going to be a National League staple, just like the Dodgers, in the playoffs every year. Well, it's not too fucking easy, is it? It's not too easy. And now we're seeing this because this team is just completely falling apart before our eyes. And, they might have caught lightning in a bottle last year. They might have gone all the way to Game 6 of the NLCS. But I'll tell you this much, Dan, none of that magic has come over to 2025. It looked like maybe it did for the first 2 months, but ever since June 13th, this team has been a pile of shit and is going nowhere.
Yeah, and it's been such a disaster. And it's like I hear that the I don't know if I could say the Yankees are barely hanging in there. I was joking with Dave before the season about, like little things about, well, we're not really doing any of the stuff that we said I was going to do, just joking about who has the better outcome to the season. I kind of question what the heck's going to happen if both the Mets and the Yankees have a similar outcome.
The Yankees are playing good ball. What are you talking about? The Yankees are blowing the Mets out of the water recently. The Yankees have won 8 of their last 10 games. The Mets can't do anything right. The Yankees are a really good team. They just beat the crap out of the Cardinals last week. They just swept the Tampa Bay Rays. They're probably going to kick the shit out of the Boston Red Sox this weekend. So the Mets and the Yankees aren't even in the same world right now. To sit here and say, oh, gee, the Mets and the Yankees might have the same fate. Dan, I understand what you're trying to say, because the Yankees went through a prolonged stretch of struggling too, but the Yankees have corrected themselves. They've won 8 of 10. The Yankees are right in the mix right now. As a matter of fact, they've closed the gap with the Blue Jays to only 4 games. The Yankees were 6.5, 7 games out just a couple of days ago. So the Yankees are really starting to get back. And if they do some damage against Boston this weekend, who, by the way, they've climbed over in the standings already, the Yankees could be breathing down the Blue Jays' neck. The Mets, I'll tell you this much, Dan, this is my prediction. Whether the Mets make the playoffs or not this year, the Mets will not sniff first place for the rest of the year. And to be honest, I don't even think the Phillies are that good of a team. I don't have much respect for the Phillies. But the fact is, the Mets just suck worse than they do. And the Phillies haven't had Aaron Nola for most of the year, and he's been bad when he's pitched. And Zach Wheeler just had a blood clot removed and is missing extended time too. So the Phillies don't even have their 2 best pitchers, and they still shit on the Mets.
Yeah, and the other thing I questioned about David Stearns, they have a backlog of, like, even they didn't want to give up any of their pitching prospects, but one of their position player prospects, there's crowded at positions. I feel like David Stearns is guilty of prospect hugging. Maybe should have pulled the trigger on maybe one of them for Durant.
Well, to be fair, the Red Sox didn't trade him. So, would you want to give up Brandon Sprout and Jet Williams for Durant? Because I don't think I would have.
Yeah, I kind of question maybe. I don't know about Sprout, but maybe one of the other pitchers. I don't know. Maybe
Nolan McLean. It would have been a top of the line guy. Because Duran is a former All-Star. He's a guy that's under contract. So the Red Sox were not motivated to trade him, and I don't blame them. But as much as I want to criticize David Stearns for certain things, we also can't criticize him. There are a couple of things like starting pitcher. I want to rip him for not getting a starting pitcher. But to be fair, if we're going to sit here and say he should have done that in the offseason, at the trade deadline, there's nothing. Who's he going to trade for? Charlie Morton? Charlie Morton stinks. So, that wouldn't have been that big of an upgrade. So I understand him not making a trade for a starting pitcher. For an outfielder, it's the same thing. Cedric Mullins, he's not as good as Duran, but you didn't have to give up Sprout, and you didn't have to give up a Jet Williams for him. You know, for a different guy like that, we're talking 2 of your top 10 prospects for a guy like Duran, and I don't know if that would have been a smart move.
Yeah, it might have been a smart move, but I can tell you, every one of these prospects, or at least a ton of most of them, better turn out to be something, or I'm going to question David Stearns.
Yeah,
That's all I can tell you. The outcome's going to determine what David Stearns' legacy on the Mets are going to be. The outcome of these prospects right here.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. And one of the prospects that we're talking about right now, one of these top guys, is Nolan McLean, who me and you were at his major league debut last week against the Seattle Mariners. And obviously, the kid threw a great game, really pumped up the fan base again. You know, me and you were joking just a couple of days ago. It seems that it's another thing. It seems like it's weeks ago at this point that me and you were joking about, hey, the team's 3-0 since the game that me and you went to on Saturday. Gee, maybe we're the grimace of 2025, joking around. Well, that's not the case, because they've dropped the next 2 games in ugly, typical 2025 Mets fashion. And the thing is, Dan, there was a charm to that 2024 Mets team. That 2024 Mets team was good for a heartbreaking punch to the gut loss once a week in the regular season last year. If you really want to think about it, how many devastating losses did they have that year, over and over and over again? But the thing that defined that team and defined that season is that the next day they would come back up and kick you in the ass and take a game, no matter how they had to do it, whether they had to dominate from the beginning, whether they had to come back late, whether they had to steal it. That there was a way they were going to come back and find a way to win that game. Now, that is not the case at all this year. This team, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's not having JD Martinez and Jose Iglesias and that thing there. Whatever the hell it is, something is wrong. Something is rotten with this team. And this team reminds me a lot more of the choke artist 2022 Mets or the 2023 garbage Mets than anything even resembling the 2024 team.
Yeah, his is just horrible. And I think maybe one thing, maybe this one's maybe not really a ridiculous idea, but if JD Martinez decides to retire because he's unsigned, he hasn't decided yet what he wants to do. If he retires, maybe he should be considered maybe for a hitting coach.
I'm telling you, Dan, it's funny you say that, because right around about a month ago, right before they got on that 7-game winning streak, when they still couldn't hit, I remember thinking to myself, and I saw somebody write it, I forget who it was, but I thought it was a brilliant idea too. You have to at least get rid of one. The Mets have Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes, their hitting coach and the assistant hitting coach. One of those guys should have been gone. And you could say whatever, they've been better lately, but still, when you looked at the numbers before against the Washington Nationals bullpen, I think there's room for improvement. What I would have done is I would have fired one of those hitting coaches, if not both of them, and I would have brought in JD Martinez to be an assistant hitting coach, just because even if he's not playing, he knows these guys. He was a guy that was revered in the clubhouse. Players took him, he really was playing the role last year of a hitting coach that's on the team. And the Mets needed somebody like that this year. And even if I were the Mets too, San Diego Padre fans hate Jose Iglesias. They're sick of him. If I was David Stearns, I would have gone to San Diego and said, hey, what is it going to take for you? And it wouldn't have taken much. What is it going to take for you to flip Jose Iglesias to me? The guy's hitting 230 for them right now. It wouldn't have taken much. You could have put him back on this bench. And you know what? I'm sorry. I like Ronnie Mauricio a lot. Ronnie Mauricio should be in the minor leagues, getting at bats and playing. you had this spot the other night where you had a runner on late in the game, and Luis Torrens's spot comes up. Now Hayden Senger's on the bench, so you have your backup catcher there, so you can pinch hit for Torrens. They opted to leave him in because Ronnie Mauricio is 3 for 34 against left-handed pitching at the major league level this year. Now, I understand taking that into consideration, but if he is not able to hit in that spot, he shouldn't be on this team. It's the same thing with, what's his name? Tyrone Taylor. They don't use the guy. He shouldn't be on this team. It drives me nuts, Dan. I don't understand. It's almost like this guy, doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Mauricio, we all can like him. Yeah, he's had a couple of big moments this year. I think he's going to be good eventually, but he's still young, and he still needs to be getting at bats. Sitting on the bench because you don't trust him doesn't do him any good. It doesn't do us any good. It clogs the bench up, it clogs the team up, and it has us shorthanded.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Send him back down to the minors if he's not gonna really get much at bats. Let him get at bats in the minors. Maybe somehow he turns out a bit better next year or something, but just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And now, so tomorrow, we're going to have to keep our fingers crossed and hope that the Mets actually don't suck. And maybe you can bet on a rookie to have a great game, because apparently this rookie is the only one with balls. The rest of the team doesn't have any. Although I will say this, shout out to Francisco Lindor, because after he has sucked for 2 months and helped to bury this team, for the last couple of weeks, Francisco Lindor has been hitting the crap out of the ball. And, especially in this series when he led off today with the home run and started making you feel good about yourself before reality set in. But Francisco Lindor, I mean, he's on a stretch right now where he's like 16 for 30. So this guy is in a really, really hot stretch right now. So with all this awfulness, at least shout out to Francisco Lindor for at least looking like he gives a damn.
Yeah, I gotta give credit to Lindor. I feel like he's someone you really can't count out. I feel like in the situation you can't discount him. There's maybe 1 or 2 guys or 3 guys you can't discount on this team. Lindor is definitely someone you can't really discount.
Yeah, it's true. So, shout out to Lindor. Oh, one other guy that I want to give a little shade to is Juan Soto. I have tried to be so, positive for the most part. We've criticized him when he's needed to be criticized, but for the most part, we've been pretty positive on Juan Soto. It's about fucking time this guy put his head on straight. This guy, we have about a month left in the season, and he's hitting 250 and has barely 70 RBIs. Give me a freaking break, Juan Soto. I know he's had 98 walks. I know he's hit 30 home runs. Which, by the way, as we call him Juan Solo, because 24 of those 30 home runs are solo home runs. It's almost like mathematically impossible. 24 solo home runs and 6 2-run home runs. No 3-run home runs and no grand slams. It's mathematically impossible. It's absolutely insane what this season has been for the Mets. Snake bitten does not even describe it. So you know what, Dan? Real quick before we wrap up on the Mets, and any thoughts on Soto and what the hell is going on with him this year?
Yeah, well, all I can say is that it's just shows how little base runners we're getting, or sometimes how little chances we're getting with the runners on base. Because
but then the guy's hitting 180 when in the scoring position. I don't know if it's guys not getting on in front of him.
Yeah, it's I'm shocked this has happened. I feel like at some point eventually he's got to do something with runners on base. I really don't know what's going on, but something's got to happen, and I just hope that there's a moment that just turns it around. Like, I just feel like for his sake, he has to have a moment that turns it around.
Yeah, and you're 100. And the funny thing is like, I guess it's not funny if you've listened to the first 37 minutes of this screaming and yelling angry podcast so far. But if, how many times has there been a spot this year? And I don't know if it's happened for you. I'm sure you've had the same thought process that I've had. But there have been so many times where Juan Soto has come up with the Mets are down and there's a couple of guys on base. And I remember and I would just sit there and think to myself, I'd sit back in my seat and I'd say, this could be Juan Soto's spot. Oh, they're down 5-4. 2 guys on in the 8th inning. He could hit a 3-run home run right now and put the Mets up, and this would be Juan Soto's big Mets moment. And there has not been one of those moments this year. Sure, Soto's had some good moments. He's hit a couple of home runs in big spots. He draws a lot of walks. Got to give him credit for that. He's really, at times, when he does get a base hit, with runners in scoring position, it's usually one of those seeing eye singles right up the middle. But I don't know, Dan. I'm sure that you've had the same thoughts where this is going to be Juan Soto's moment. This is going to be his moment. And then it's August 21st, and he still hasn't had that moment.
Yeah, it's just become horrible, and it's become unacceptable.
Yeah, I always think back whenever I think of a guy, having his moment that really etches his name with the fan base. I think back to like Mike Piazza hitting that 3-run shot. Mets were down 2-0 in the 9th inning against Billy Wagner and the Astros in '98 at the Astrodome. Piazza hits the 3-run shot to put him up 3-2. That was Piazza's Mets moment in the playoff run. I remember Jason Giambi with the Yankees in May of 2002 against I believe it was the Twins in extra innings, hitting that grand slam that really was his Mets moment. Or Carlos Beltran with the Mets in 06, hitting that big 15th inning or 16th inning, whatever it was, home run against the Phillies. That there are so many moments that you can just sit back and point to and say, that was that guy's moment. That was that guy's moment. Juan Soto has not even come close to having that moment yet. And if you combine the paychecks of everybody I just mentioned, they're not even half of Juan Soto. So look, and I also don't want to be one of those guys like, well, he's getting paid, $700 million, whatever. Okay, I get it. He gets paid a lot of money. But look, buddy, I'm sorry. At some point, you got to produce.
Yep, exactly. He's got to have a moment. And all those moments you mentioned, actually, you just accidentally mentioned a Yankees player by accident.
It wasn't by accident, because when I think of Giambi, like, that was a big moment to me. You know what I mean? Like, even though I understand me and you are Met fans, I remember Giambi hitting that home run. I remember watching that game and being like, I couldn't even imagine, like, that would be like Mo Vaughn that year for the Mets, hitting a game-winning grand slam in extra innings. You know what I mean? And, obviously, we never got that, but it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, this guy just stepped up in a big moment. That's just that's the reason why I brought it up.
Yep, exactly. And we need one. And all those Met players you mentioned, they seem to all have moments that led to Gary Cohen doing a double out of here moment. We need Juan Soto to have a double it's out of here moment by Gary Cohen. A moment that leads to a double it's out of here. So that's what we need to propel his career. And I feel like that there's something about that's a momentum swinger if Gary Cohen makes a double it's out of here moment.
Well, you're 100% right, actually, because that's the type of moment he needs. He needs to have that moment that makes, because, Gary Cohen's a Met fan just like all of us. Obviously, he's the, whatever you want to call it, the first Met fan, because he's sitting there calling the game. But if you, look at Gary Cohen's double out of here moments, it's because as a Met fan, he knows it's a big moment, just like we do. And, there's a reason why Juan Soto hasn't had a double out of here yet, because he just hasn't produced in the big moment. We've seen Pete get it. We've seen all these, Francisco Lindor has had his double out of here moments, that we haven't had anything from our boy, Mr. Soto, yet.
Yep, exactly. Of course, they gotta just give a disclaimer about that. What you're probably thinking a double it's out of here moment by Lindor, because that was the playoff game, and Gary Cohen was in the booth for that. But I feel like that would have been a double out of here moment had Gary Cohen been calling that game, game
No,
4 of the NLDS, of course. That's
no,
the game you're talking about.
I was thinking game 161 against the Braves. That wasn't a double out of here. I'm pretty sure it
No,
was.
no. I don't remember it being a double out of here. I might have to look at the footage of that game again because I don't recall it. I don't recall it being a double out of here. But
I'll tell you this though, and I love Gary Cohen. If he gave Pete Alonso, and look, Pete's home run was big, breaking the Darryl Strawberry home run record. But if he gave Pete Alonso a double out of here for that in a 5-1 game in August, and didn't give Francisco Lindor a double out of here in game 161 in the biggest moment of the year, come on, Gary, you're slipping. If that wasn't a double out of here.
yeah, because I feel like that should have been a double out of here. And then of course,
Right.
no, and of course knowing my look, except for that Piazza moment, which is on the road, I seem to have a knack for being at moments where Gary Cohen did a double out of here. And
Yeah.
I have a weird feeling that if that happens where Juan Soto has a double let's out of here moment, I'm probably going to be in the stands. I just have a scared feeling that if that happens, Juan Soto has a double out of here, I call it right here and call back to this episode right here on this day at this moment. If that happens, that I'm around, that I'm in the stands, I'm just going to say hypothetically home or road because I can't say because I feel like either thing's possible, even though that might be a far stretch road. But just saying that if it's a game, it's possible. If it's Mets, it's a possibility I could be there. I like to not discount the possibility I could be there. So, assuming I'm there, Juan Soto has a double out of here moment. Call back to this if I'm in the stands when that moment happens.
That's right. That's right. So, all right, let's close the book on the Mets now because I just can't even talk about them anymore. I am so disgusted with this team and this franchise right now. And I hope the owner is too. I hope the owner isn't going to let this shit get away with it, but whatever. I can't even keep going with it because if I keep talking, me and you are going to go for 2 hours. So
Yep.
let's wrap this. Let's put a bow on this with the Mets. McLean against Wentz tomorrow at Atlanta, and a game the Mets are sure to lose somehow. So there we go. So we will continue on here with the Yankees as the Yankees sweep the Rays in Tampa. Come home now to face the Red Sox for a 4-game set in the Bronx. And as opposed to the complete opposite of the New York Mets now, the Yankees are actually playing good ball, as we were saying. The Yankees have won 8 of their last 10. The Yankees have been beaten up on the last couple of teams they've been facing, which is exactly what they need to do. And a big reason for that, Dan, is that a guy they missed for a good portion of this season so far, Giancarlo Stanton, continues to be red hot. Not only is he hitting bombs, he's also hitting over 300 right now. And, we've been following, obviously, me and you have known Giancarlo Stanton since he came up with the Florida Marlins. And back then, in 2010, they still were the Florida Marlins when he came up. And he went by a different name, too. He was Mike Stanton back then. And Mike Stanton, then Giancarlo Stanton, has never been a 300 hitter in all the time that we've seen him. And now he's come to the Yankees, and he's hitting 300. It's looking like Tony Gwynn out there with power. So, if the Yankees could keep Stanton going right now, it's like Giancarlo October playoff Stanton has showed up in July and August for the Yankees, and that's exactly what they need, especially with Judge still dealing with some injuries.
Yeah, he needs to come up. He needs to come up big. I don't know the equivalent. I know Sterling's retired, but he needs those Stantonian moments, right? Him as much as I'm annoyed by Sterling, I was like, it's freaking those Sterling calls get stuck in my head because of freaking Anthony's impression of Sterling. So it's like if I hear those things, it's like I just think of Anthony's impression of Sterling. So it's like, so it's like, but he needs he needs moments like that the rest of the way, and this series is going to be a key series. And by the way, if you want a really good laugh, all right, I understand that tomorrow is a game that they're doing at a. I was looking at it. The tickets are pricey. I might wait for the price for this bobblehead to go down on eBay because it's Seinfeld theme, and Seinfeld's one of my one of our favorites. This bobblehead of George Costanza sleeping under the desk they're giving out, and if you want a really good laugh, as a nod to that episode where Elaine, remember the owner's box, she's wearing the opposing team's hat, the Orioles. I would recommend bringing a Red Sox fan, even if you're not a Yankees fan, go to this game, bring a Red Sox fan to this game, and bring a Red Sox fan that'll wear the full Red Sox gear for this. Especially if you're sitting in a lower bowl, just as a nod to that Seinfeld episode. I highly recommend doing that with the giveaway. Seinfeld.
Yeah,
I just think it's a hilarious idea. I would personally do that. But I was actually thinking of doing that, and the person I know who's a Red Sox fan that lives in the area isn't available that day, that I would have brought to this game as a nod to that Seinfeld episode, even though I'd be sitting up deck, but as a nod to that episode, I would have brought with me as a nod to that Seinfeld episode, because it's just hilarious, and I do like this bobblehead design. I don't know if you've seen a picture of it. Remember, I showed you a picture. I think I showed you a picture of it.
I saw it.
It's a nod to George Costanza sleeping under the desk. I just feel like it's a really nice nod to the whole thing, and I got to credit to the Yankees to embrace the thing with the character the George Costanza character, his little link, even though fictional to the Yankees. Like last year, they did that, and I bought this one in eBay. I found it pretty cheap on eBay. Remember that bobblehead when he's like taking batting practice, and all of a sudden he is like Derek. Remember Derek Jeter was like looking at him like, why is this guy just hitting home runs at BP like it's nothing? Like this guy, this guy you wouldn't expect to be just taking BP, and he's hitting home runs like nothing. They gave out a bobblehead as a nod to that. Then they gave out a bobblehead of this year of George Costanza sleeping under the desk to that episode. I personally think next year they need to give out a bobblehead of like of George Steinbrenner, but look like the shot. Remember the shot of the episode? You would only see his back. They need to give out a bobblehead with that design next year. I don't know if there's a way maybe they can get the Steinbrenner family to approve that. But I think that'd be a hilarious thing to do, like a bobblehead like that is not to like George Steinbrenner, but it's like just the way the camera angle that you would only see his back, because obviously it wasn't the Steinbrenner himself playing it. It was played by Larry David, but a bobblehead is a nod to that. I feel like that's what they need to do next year. But I like this design for this one night. If the price goes down a little bit, I might have to pick one of these up on eBay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it going for like $200, but you're right that that would be an awesome gift to get, or a gift to get yourself or a friend or a family member that does love the Yankees or Seinfeld. So definitely awesome there. But yeah, Dan, the Yankees though, they might not be as consistent and good as those late 90s teams that George Costanza was the traveling secretary for, but they're still setting some records, man. This Stanton and Austin Wells actually hit back-to-back home runs in extra innings the other night in their win over the Tampa Bay Rays. And believe it or not, we talk about Ruth and Gehrig and Mantle and DiMaggio and, Maris and Mantle and Jackson and Thurman Munson and Don Mattingly and, Winfield and Paul O'Neill and Bernie Williams and Tino Martinez. You go down the list of all the guys, power hitters in Yankee history. Giancarlo Stanton and Austin Wells are the first Yankee teammates in history to hit back-to-back home runs in extra innings. I thought that was a pretty cool stat.
Yeah, that is an interesting stat to see, like the back-to-back, belly to belly as a Sterling would say, because I swear thanks a lot, Anthony. Every time I see these little things with these Yankees do things, I freaking, like I said, I still think of your impression of Sterling when I see these things. But that's I mean, those impressions will live on
and the
will
belly
live
to
on.
belly.
Yeah. Those impressions of Sterling just live on in infamy, even though Sterling's retired. But yeah,
Absolutely.
but you got to give credit to that. The way they did that in extra innings, and I do have I also kind of wonder that maybe also the way they're hitting maybe played a factor into the fact that that they were playing a road game in a field that's practically the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium, as weird that is as it is.
Yeah, it's true for Steinbrenner Field down there in Tampa, where the Rays are playing this year because of the damage done from the hurricane last year to Tropicana Field. So, yeah, the Yankees definitely have some familiarity there, no doubt about it. Back-to-back home runs there helped them seal the deal. Yankees won 6-4 on getaway day yesterday as they came home to start this series. But boy, they hammered those home runs though in a couple of games in Tampa, as the Yankees hit 9 home runs on Tuesday, the second 9 home run game they've had of this season. They had one 9 home run game. I think it was March 29th against Milwaukee. Remember when they just dog walked the Brewers those first couple of games? And then, so they hit 5 more on Wednesday. So now the Yankees have become the second team in Major League history to hit 14 home runs in a 2-game span, joining only the 1999 Reds. And you know who hit the first home run of those 14 for those Cincinnati Reds day in 99? Current Yankee manager Aaron Boone. How weird is that?
Yeah, talk about weird parallel to that. Who knew that?
Right.
That's just a what? That is just a wild stat, and it just seems like the question is with the Yankees is what they're gonna do in October, which is I feel like October is such a big crapshoot that it's either gonna go one way or another. I feel like with this Yankees team, I just feel like it's not really going to go any middle ground. It's going to go one way or another.
Yeah, well, they got to hope that. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right, Dan, because one thing we've seen from the Yankees the last few years, up until last year, where it really didn't hit them until the World Series, where they kind of fell apart, is that the Yankees usually have a great offense in the regular season. You know, we see that basically every year. But then it usually dries up, except for Giancarlo Stanton in the playoffs. Usually, that's the trend that we've seen over the last few years with the Yankees. They hit great in the regular season, and then it dries up in the postseason. So if the Yankees got to just keep that momentum going, and obviously you're not expecting to hit 9 home runs in a playoff game, but you hit 3 home runs in a playoff game, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that's going to be the question is the competition's just going to be up there during the playoffs, because I feel like even opponents they face in the regular season, they're going to be throwing out some of their best pitchers. I feel like so it's gonna be interesting. I feel like there's unlike last year where the American League was a walk in the park. There's at least 3 teams that are going to potentially be a legitimate threat in the American League. I feel like those 3 teams could be Seattle, Toronto, and even Houston. And maybe I could throw in a 4th team in Texas.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There is tougher competition. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for the Yankees as it was last year. And it looked like a real cakewalk for the Yankees last year.
Yeah, well, I don't think you have to worry about Texas. Texas is kind of out of it, but the Mariners, the Astros, all those teams. The even Kansas City still kind of in it. Detroit obviously is going to be a really big one for them, and then Toronto, who they're chasing right now, and then even in the peripheral right now too, the Boston Red Sox, who are a game and a half behind the Yankees in the AL East. The Yankees are 4 behind Toronto, and Boston is 5.5. So this is a big series this weekend, Dan, because if the Yankees go out and lose 3 out of 4 to Boston, they drop right back into third place. So they're going to have to go out there and really defend. I mean, at least a split. But even with that, when you're trailing Toronto, you want to win 3 out of 4. And the Yankees, as a matter of fact, better win 3 out of 4.
Yeah, exactly. And Boston's not going to be a slouch of a team. They're just not going to go. I feel like they're not going to go out without a fight. That they're going to be. That the Yankees are facing a team that could be in it till mid-September.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, and even look to tonight, the pitching matchup definitely favors Boston. When you look at this and see that Lucas Giolito, we remember him. I remember Lucas Giolito coming up as one of the better pitching prospects for the Washington Nationals before they traded him to the Chicago White Sox in the Adam Eaton deal about 9 or 10 years ago. Luis Gil, or Gil, however you want to say his last name, has been pretty decent for the Yankees dating back to last year, but he's still trying to get back onto the right track of the regular season too. He missed most of this year with an injury, so I don't know how easy it's going to be for him. But right now, the Yankees and the Red Sox, just to give you an update, because this game did start at 7:15, and it is 1-1 right now in the third inning. Ben Rice took Giolito deep in the second, and for the Red Sox, they manufactured a run with a Bregman double against Gil in the second as well. So 1-1 in the third, Yankees and Red Sox. One last thing on the Yankees before we close this thing out, Dan, is what you think earlier this week there was a little back and forth between Aaron Judge and Aaron Boone. Now, if you're not familiar, Judge was placed on the DL about a month ago, or the IL, whatever you want to call it now, because he had a something wrong with his shoulder. We saw it in a game where he went and played a ball off the wall, and when he threw it in, he winced greatly when he threw the ball in, and there was no strength on his throw. He shortly after that would go on the IL, and they said that that there's a problem with his throwing in his arm and everything. So when Aaron Boone was speaking to the media maybe 2 or 3 days ago, they mentioned, what do you think? How is Judge progressing? Is he going to be doing X, Y, and Z? Whatever. They're looking for an update. And Boone basically said that he thinks that this injury is going to affect Judge's throwing and defense for the rest of the year. Now, Judge came back off the IL about a week or so ago and has been DHing ever since. But then when they spoke to Aaron Judge is like, what is he talking about? Aaron Boone hasn't even seen me throw a ball in about 3 weeks. And I'm expecting to be out in the field again soon. So there seems to be a little bit of a miscommunication between these guys, and the Yankees better figure that out pretty quick.
Yeah, I feel like they need to figure this out before it leads to a disaster of an injury, because last thing you want is to mismanage this, and then all of a sudden, Judge is out for the season, and you've caused a disaster, and you hear every Yankees fan that calls into WFAN lose their shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, an injury would be worst case scenario. You're right about that. But let's not even say he gets injured again. Let's just say maybe this is leading to these two guys not being on the same page. And we're in like we were saying with the Mets, we're into the last 40 games of the regular season now. You need your best player, Aaron Judge, and your manager, Aaron Boone, to not only be on the same page, but they got to be writing in the same sentence. Like these guys have to be in tune big time. And to have this kind of communication right now that seems like there's a lack of communication really is concerning if you're a Yankee fan.
Yeah, there is a kink in the armor, and it needs to be concerned, and it's not – I feel like it needs to be not overlooked the rest of the way. And they need to resolve this quick, and Aaron Judge and Aaron Boone need to resolve this thing quickly before it becomes too much of a distraction down the stretch run.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Dan. And all right, that's going to do it for the Yankees. Real quick before we get out of here, because there's really not that much to get into. But the Jets and the Giants, will wrap up with them, as the Jets and the Giants both basically concluded training camp this week. They got one more preseason game left each before we get ready for the countdown to the regular season. The New York Giants are playing a familiar foe tonight in the New England Patriots. That's going on right about now. Kickoff happened about a couple of minutes ago, and I'm sure that Dan will be settling in to watch that tonight, as the Giants are going to be having some names out there, looking guys fighting for roster spots. Maybe see a little bit of Jackson Dart, so that'd be nice to see for the Giants out there. Are you planning on watching the game tonight, Dan?
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching this. I feel like it. I feel like it's gonna be. I feel like Jackson Dart's maybe gonna get the most of the reps because I feel like they want to have Russell Wilson ready for the season opener because I feel like he's at least got to start the season. So maybe we're gonna have maybe Jackson Dart maybe get some more reps with the first offense. I expect him to get a lot of reps in the first half.
There are a lot of Giant fans. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dan. I thought you were done. I just want to add real quick. There are a lot of Giant fans that are pushing for Jackson Dart to be the starter week 1. I don't know if that's the right decision. What do you think? Would you rather see Russell Wilson week 1 or Jackson Dart?
I really feel like they need to not rush Jackson Dart. I feel like there's just a lot of pressure. I feel like this season is really more of a building block year. I feel like they need to slowly get him there because we were ready. Because I feel like next year is going to be the money year. Whatever he does this year, whatever turns out, hopefully it turns out to be positive outcomes for him. But I feel like next year is going to be the real money year for the Giants, and they need to. I feel like this is a year that they need to build that momentum. So I feel like they need to not mess this one up.
I'm with you. I'm definitely with you. I think there's a reason why you have Russell Wilson on this roster right now. Makes all the sense in the world. Don't rush the kid in there. Let him take his time. Let him learn the playbook. Let him get the feel for the NFL. Maybe you bring him in mop-up duty in a couple of games, whether the Giants are winning big or whether the Giants are getting blown out. You bring him in at the end of a couple of games, let him get his feet wet, and then depending on where the Giants are sitting, week 10, 11, 12, then you can bring him in and let him be the starter. And then you can feel good about yourselves because the Giants have a lot of youth on this team to be proud of right now. We've talked for the last couple of years about the Jets having these young pieces we're going to talk about, and we've talked about, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, on and on, all this stuff. The Giants have those pieces now too. The Giants have a quarterback in Jackson Dart that could be their missing piece. They have Malik Neighbors that guy can rely on, and they have a really good young pass rush with Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. They traded for Brian Burns. This is a team on the up right now. So I'm with you, Dan. I think there's a lot of things to be positive about this Giants team. It's definitely the most talented Giants team we've seen in probably the last 6 or 7 years, right? What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like you need to be patient on this. I mean, you saw how it turned out 2004. I feel like that was a key building block year that led to that eventual championship in 2007. I feel like you need to look at it that way. I'm not really going into this high expectations. I'm looking to seeing what progress is made this year.
You want to see growth.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going into this expecting it is what it is, and it's a situation where it had to happen like this. It had to turn out like this. I mean, all I could say about Dave. I mean, I could say all I want about Daboll, Joe Shane. Maybe they needed to go into this, maybe bringing in guys that they drafted and were part of they needed to be part of the process of building this team up. They needed a team to build up, maybe. And this season and maybe even next season, I feel like the next 2 years are going to define the legacy of Daboll and Joe Shane. Next 2 years.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And it's going to be real interesting to see if this season sees incremental growth from this Giants team. Let's just say they win 7 games. Then people are going to look at Mara and say, okay, you know what? Maybe Mara did make the right move bringing these guys back. But if the Giants go out there and have another 4-win or 5-win season, and they're getting blown out and they're not looking good, and let's just say the Giants have to turn around at some point and fire their head coach, boy, after retaining both these guys last year and bringing them back, it's going to be a real nightmare for the Giants if that has to be the case. But right now, there's a lot of positivity in Giants land, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it and see how everything works out for Mara and company.
Yep, I know. I just know, at the same time, I just feel like that Saquon Barkley disaster is still annoying because I still have to hear it from every fucking Eagles fan I know.
Yeah, well, that story with Saquon's going to hang over the Giants' head until they win their next ring.
Yeah, and it even got worse on the way back from I guess I was on the way back from seeing I was about to see, I went to the Giants training camp. I'm hopping on the New Jersey Transit train. I forgot that there was a Sunday night game. The Phillies were playing against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. There were some Philly fans that were, I guess, made the trip via New Jersey Transit, from Philly to New York. They were making their way on there, so I was getting heckled by some Phillies jerseys, some people in some Phillies jerseys that were also Eagles fans that were kind of heckling me. And I forgot I forgot that was happening today, so that was happening that day, and I had to deal with that because I'm wearing my Giants gear. I just went to Giants training camp, which of course happens like early in the morning, like late morning to like early afternoon. And I'm on my way back home to New York, the city. After that, and seeing that, so I'm hoping that in the end, I'm for once getting to just maybe heckle those same Eagles fans. Maybe one day wearing another World Champions shirt. That's all I can tell you.
Well,
we'll
see.
But probably go. Hopefully, probably have to go online to buy this because we don't have models like we did back in the day where you could just go buy it as soon as they want it. But I'll be buying it. I guess online as soon as they sell it online. I guess is where I have to buy it.
That's right. And tomorrow night, my Jets will be dealing with those same Eagle fans as the Jets who, finally got off the schneid against them for the franchise not having a victory against them ever until 2023. Now we'll have a chance to get another one in the preseason. Eagles Jets tomorrow night, 7:30. Real interesting last couple of days. Jets making a couple of trades. I'm actually very shocked. I forgot to include the what's it called? I forgot to include them here on the bottom screen here, but it's real interesting that the Jets have made these trades. This is the type of trades too that I've wanted the Jets to make for a long time now. Obviously, that we all know that they've got a really good nose tackle in Quinnen Williams, but they went out there and acquired two big guys. They acquired Harrison Phillips, the defensive tackle from the Minnesota Vikings, and they only gave up, it was like a sixth round swap. And then Jawan Briggs, they also acquired another defensive lineman from the Cleveland Browns. So the Jets really beefing up their defensive line in the final days of training camp. I think they didn't give up anything to do it. It was a 6th round swap and a 7th round pick in the other trade. That's it. So they gave up basically nothing and really improved the depth on their D line. Now, I still don't have high hopes for this season with the Jets. I've been saying it from the get-go. The Jets are talking about trading for a wide receiver as well. And I commented on X as well. Gee, maybe it would have been nice to have this no-name receiver we had last year named Devontae Adams, who the Jets cut for nothing and got nothing for. Now he's playing in L.A. with the Rams, and Matthew Stafford has a chance to compete for a ring this year. But, also, too, you hear the criticism about Justin Fields so far not having a very impressive camp, not very impressive so far outside of one drive in his first couple of games in the preseason with the Jets. So they need to see a lot. Otherwise, it's also going to be very easy to criticize them for cutting Aaron Rodgers as well. at least depending on what he does in Pittsburgh. But I'll tell you this much, Dan. I got my bet in on DraftKings. I bet on the Pittsburgh Steelers to win the Super Bowl this year. I actually did. So I put my money where my mouth is. I got a $500 bet waiting if Aaron Rodgers goes out on top this year. And I'm going to be laughing all the way to the bank with if that's the case.
Yeah, that is going to be crazy. How crazy would that be you won that bet? But I feel like the Jets, they need to have badly, and it might be a far stretch, but they need to badly have this just for the sake of everyone, every decision making, the coach, everyone on board. They need to either make the playoffs by a small margin or come close to it, is what I expected the Jets to in their progression. They need to have one of those two outcomes. Make the playoffs or come close to it to say that they're progressing in the right direction.
And competing for a playoff spot. I totally agree with you. The only problem is, I think much like right now, the way I always tell you that I don't think David Stearns is going anywhere because basically Steve Cohen sold his soul to him. I think it's the same thing with Woody Johnson and Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. I think he said, you know what? I'm going to let you guys take the heat for getting rid of Rodgers and Adams, and everything is on you guys, and I'm not going to touch this for a good 3 to 5 years. And I don't expect to see, even if the Jets go 3-15 this year, or whatever it is, 3-14 with the new added games in the schedule. It's the Jets. I don't think that they're going to make any moves, these guys. So it's just very disappointing.
They need to badly make progress with these guys, because the last thing you want to know is that if it doesn't, it's going to be an even worse rebuild than this one.
You got that right, man. You definitely got that right.
It's going to be a disaster, and they need to turn it around quick. And I got to tell you, at this rate, there might as well be. We might as well have to open the show with a sketch of us parroting us ending up in the Squid Games because we made bets on teams we're a fan of that didn't turn out well.
Yeah, that's true. Although, we'll have to see how my Pittsburgh Steelers bet works out. I'll have to see how they look in week 1 because I'm going to be getting a front row seat because it's going to be Aaron Rodgers shoving it right up the Jets' ass week 1 at MetLife Stadium. So I hope Jet fans are ready for that. And with that, Dan, I think that's going to do it for us here today on the show. I want to thank everybody hanging out with us tonight in the chat. I want to thank everybody hanging out with us here. Our Patreon subscribers, everybody. But by the way, you want to check out Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. And with that, Bo, before we get out of here, anything like to plug for yourself?
Subscribe to our Patreon. Definitely subscribe to our Patreon. You support our show. Get access to the great stuff like Trackside Minute, early access to YouTube videos, and whenever any YouTube videos I post, you get 1 week early access to. You get to support their show. Get our Patreon exclusive show we do on Sunday, which is also our weekly football wrap-up show. Sometimes we do 2 football wrap-up shows that both teams played on separate days, but you get football wrap-up shows like that, Patreon content, and you support our show. So definitely it's definitely a lot of great stuff. So subscribe to it. That's all the plugs. And also follow me on X, Bobo103 NYC, and the same thing and on Instagram, Bobo718DK for all your Bobo content. Follow me on there and be on a lookout for all the content, and even me talking about the games this weekend, and probably me talking about I know there's 2 games the next week upcoming that I'm attending, so you can see me talk about that even from that perspective in the stands. But you see me talk about stuff and various stuff I've been in and I'm at, and even stuff about appearances on various shows that I make appearances of. You get all that content, so definitely follow on there.
That's right. So make sure to check that out. And so don't forget, like Bo said, patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. You can subscribe on there if you want. It's only $5. And don't forget our Instagram as well, Best Seat in the House podcast. You see everything else in the bottom there. So thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. For my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast, everybody, and we will catch you on Sunday. But like always, back here right at this time, same bat channel. See you next week, everybody. Have a great weekend, and unfortunately, let's go Mets.